уникальный парень.
Power to the people.
It's unique boy.
Power to the people. Right on.
Hello, Adam. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah. I'm trying to get better. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you feeling a little better?
Yeah, a little bit better. My
Good.
temperature has become low.
Good.
So now I'm through this treatment, these drugs and all this stuff. But it's crazy, But I hope that branches and forests are all behind.
Yes. Hey, bear with me just one moment. I have to send something real quick. Give me one second.
Sure, of course.
This is before I forget.
Yeah.
Somebody who did a video for me just needs me to send an audio file.
No problem.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, first of all, I'd like to introduce our program to you and to all our viewers.
Okay.
And I apologize for my hairstyle. Probably it's Elvis. It's Elvis-like hairstyle because
looks great.
I haven't been to a hairdresser for a long time due to this illness. Yeah, I'm in my office now. It's my whiteboard, as you see behind, and there is no one. Yeah, there is nobody around. Thank you for recording my screen as well.
Yeah. I remember you asking about that. I didn't want to forget.
Thank you. Cool. Yeah, so there is nobody around my office. I'm alone here because I didn't want to infect anybody because I'm still I still might be contagious, right? And our program is called Power to the People. Probably the song by John Lennon, which he wrote many years ago. Called Power to the People. And the goal of this program for my students, I try to do it for my students, to interview interesting people with interesting background, with great achievements. They don't have to be necessarily famous or very famous. Among them are scientists, are people like teachers and all that. And today, it's a great honor for me to introduce you, Adam. Adam Nitti is our guest today. It's a great, probably one of the greatest, best players that I know. And the first time I heard your album, Adam, it was probably about 20 years ago. It was the album Balance, and I got this CD from nowhere. I just was looking for something, and the shop assistant, he recommended me this. Now take this, maybe you like this. And when I put this on my CD player, it was great. It was awesome, And
well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
and thank you for your kind words and introduction too. That means a lot to me. I'm humbled.
Yeah. So it's a great honor for me. Unfortunately, today I don't have much time and many opportunities to continue my guitar lessons as I used to have before when I was a student, because now I'm involved in teaching of English and Chinese, But I tried anyway. I try to do it as a hobby, and your music inspires me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Thank you for being with us. And I don't know. Maybe you also were surprised when you saw a message 1 year ago from a fan from Russia.
Yeah, it was exciting, and it was great to meet you and just hear some of the background. I continue to be amazed at how music can travel all over the world, and you put your efforts out there in your art and how it can change hands, and it's amazing. So I love how technology has been able to help the momentum of that and introduce me to awesome people like yourself, from far away.
Yeah, it's great, And we realize that we're all people of the world, and we have many things in common.
That's right.
Yeah, that's the thing we have to remember. Yeah, yeah, and I'd like to show our viewers. Maybe you will also post this video on your account on YouTube.
Yeah.
I see some. I have some quotes here of British and Irish writers, as you see. Activities, the only way to knowledge. Cool. Yeah, and there, I don't know if you see this. There is some Chinese writing above. So that's my.
I can't read those, but you'll have to tell me.
Yeah. They're all about studying, actually. Yeah. So, and you are also in a great studio. Is it your studio, home studio? Right.
Yeah, this is my home recording room, and this is where I do work for other people remotely. And this half of the room, of course, is where I have this console and got a variety of pieces of equipment, preamps and compressors and things like that. And then on the other side, I've got some my interface and some other things that I use for recording. And so, yeah, this is my place in the house to kind of do my thing. And this is where I spent most of my life this year, because of the shutdown of every live performance that I had since the very beginning of March. So yeah,
crazy times.
Quite comfortable in here.
Crazy times, but hopefully they're creative too.
Yeah, that has been the unexpected blessing in all of this. Is there's still been some great things that have come of it. Things that may not have been finished or happened had I been tied up traveling or doing other tasks.
All right. Yeah. Great. Yeah. And before we start, we go to our questions. I would like to say just a few words to my students. Some of my students, they are also involved in guitar playing, and this interview, I hope they will be very inspiring for them, because it's English. We're speaking English now, and we try to combine probably somehow music and English.
Oh,
and,
great!
For my teenage students who are in their mid-teens or late teens, for them it would be a great example, to see the interview with a person who has such great achievements in guitar playing, music, in bass playing. So guys, watch this interview, and I hope you will like it. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay. So well, of course, today we'll talk about this virus and all this world without frontiers. Yeah.
Well said. Well said. Yes.
Yeah. Because it has a certain impact on everyone, I guess, in the world. Yeah, but at first I'd like to start with a question about your involvement in music. How did you become involved in music? How did you come to music? How do you become interested in this?
I fell in love with it at a very early age, and that was mostly due to my mother's side of the family playing music a lot, being very musically talented. Particularly my grandfather on my mother's side. He was a very accomplished concert pianist and violinist. And when we would visit my grandparents at their home, he had a baby grand piano in the living room. There were pictures and posters of him playing on the walls, and he kind of made it a point to play for me whenever I was over there, and he tried to encourage me to play as well, even though I was very, very young, 4 and 5 years old. So I got exposed to music from my family early on. Several of my aunts and uncles also played guitar or piano, and so I had that exposure as well. But for whatever reason, I was just very drawn to music, and it was something that always held my attention, whenever I listened to it. And my uncle, when I was 5, bought me a children's guitar, and I didn't know what I was doing, but he taught me to strum on it and tried to show me a couple chords. For me, it was more of a rhythmic thing to kind of, strum on than it was anything else. But that was my first musical instrument. And then my parents also around that same time, in fact, in that same year, as a Christmas present, I received a toy drum set. So I was attempting to play, beats on this toy drum set when I was 5 years old.
Oh, great!
Because I showed so much interest in music, a couple of years after that, they decided that because I was showing, so much enthusiasm, they wanted to enroll me in classical piano lessons, and their thinking being that getting me on the road to formal instruction early would, first of all, put me in the right direction as far as what my learning path was, but also too as a test probably to see if I really loved it and if I wanted to stick with it. And so I started taking classical piano, and I did pretty well in it, and I had a private instructor that was taking me through repertoire, but also exposed me to my very first recitals where I was performing with some of her other students.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my first exposure to an actual performance. And so I was playing classical piano, and then fast forward several years to when I was a preteen, around 12 years old, and then into 13 years old, I was really into rock music, music that was louder and more fun to me than classical music was. And so I had met some friends in school that were also interested in music, and we formed a band, if you want to call it that, trying to learn songs. And my big problem then was that I was only playing keyboards or piano, so I didn't really have an instrument that I could take with me that was compatible with this type of music that we were listening to. So my parents were very kind, and they agreed to buy me a synthesizer. It was an old Korg Poly 61 analog synthesizer. And that allowed me to emulate a lot of the sounds that I was hearing in the music that we were listening to. So I became a part of this band with my schoolmates as a keyboard player. Mm-hmm. And we were mostly interested in music that was on the radio at the time, things like bands like Journey and Kansas and Genesis, bands like that.
Genesis, yeah.
But yeah,
great. It's
one
of my
favorites.
favorite
That I ever went to was a Genesis concert. That was my very first one.
Great. Unfortunately, Genesis. I apologize for this interruption, but it's one of my favorite band. I mean,
great.
Yeah, I mean Phil Collins, Genesis. Yeah, Phil Collins.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And you've been to this concert. Oh, great! Because they haven't been to Russia. They never been to Russia, unfortunately.
Really, I didn't know that.
Never. Neither Phil Collins nor Genesis. Maybe he visited Moscow for business or something. I don't know. But
wow.
Unfortunately, no. But I really love them.
Yeah.
And,
what a fantastic body of work.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Adam, do you mind if I ask you another question? So your family, I mean, your ancestors, they all hail from Europe, or they're all Americans? They said. Do you know anything about this?
Yeah. So it's my heritage is Italian. So my father was born in Italy. Not too far away from Naples, in a very tiny town called Gesualdo.
Uh-huh.
And then my mother's grandparents were Sicilian.
Mm-hmm.
So my father was in Italy until he moved to the States when he was 18 years old, and then my mother was born in the States. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that's for that reason I've always, of course, had a love for Italy and fascination with incorporating that culture into my life as well.
Oh, great! So you have Italian roots. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Probably you're keen on Italian cuisine.
Yeah, I love to cook that too. So I do my best to try to replicate some of my parents' recipes.
Oh, great! And probably that explains a lot why you took to music, because Italian in Italy, it's probably one of the first countries after the Middle Ages where people started doing something musical. Probably art. It's a country of art.
Absolutely,
So
yeah, and going along with what you're saying, I mean, there's so many incredible Italian musicians that have that have garnered some various levels of success, and obviously artists as well. So there's definitely a rich artistic culture as part of that.
And your culture, your religious culture is Catholic. You're Catholic, right?
Yeah. So my upbringing was Catholic. It's obviously my family heritage. We don't consider, my wife and I don't attend a Catholic church. We're more just general Christian, non-denominational. But yeah, that is a significant part of my religious heritage, especially in my youth.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah, great. Yeah. All right. Okay, let's move on. If you don't mind. You told me why you decided to switch from keyboards to bass. Sorry. Why not lead guitar? Why not solo guitar? Why did you decide to take up playing bass guitar?
The bass role was evolved just out of a series of random events, really. The band that I mentioned earlier that I was playing with, our bass player just decided one day that he wanted to switch to rhythm guitar and leave the lead guitar role to the guitar player that we had at the time. So we didn't have a bass player, and I volunteered to try the bass out and just kind of see what I thought of it. So he lent me his bass guitar for a while, and I started working with it and trying to learn songs. And the more I played with it, the more I fell in love with it. So, it was really it was out of need, for our band. It was a missing role all of a sudden that I tried to fill it. But I really connected with the instrument, and for a long time I was playing both bass and keyboards in that band, teaching myself at times how to do both at the same time. So there were songs where I had taught myself to play the chords with my right hand and then tap the bass lines with my left hand. And once I started playing bass, I really got into bands like Rush and Yes, and bands that, more from, I guess, what you would call back then from the progressive side, that had more interesting types of bass lines. And so I just fell in love with that as well, until I got so involved with the bass that I stopped playing keyboards as a performance instrument. And to this day, I just I don't perform as a keyboard player. I still compose on keyboards, but once I got really into the bass, I just wanted to focus all my attention on that. I love lead guitar, and maybe if we needed a guitar player then, I would have tried that, and then maybe I would have gone in that direction. But it was almost accidental that the bass sort of fell in my lap.
Your story reminds me of the story with Paul McCartney. How he became involved in bass playing. Because it was a necessity. They didn't have any bass player. Probably you're aware of the Beatles story, actually. And at first he played lead guitar or rhythm guitar, and then the guys, John Lennon and other folks, they asked him to take up playing bass, and he didn't mind, right? Yeah.
And I'm assuming that his background also contributed to his very unique way of playing. He obviously has one of the signature sounds, but there's a lot of bass players out there that were guitar players before they were bass players. I've had a lot of people ask me about my work on the 6-string bass, and they're surprised to hear that I never played guitar. And it was a part of the natural evolution of who I was listening to at different stages as a bass player, starting off with just, prog rock and rock music, and then being introduced to jazz and jazz fusion from some of my peers, which led me in the direction towards players like John Patitucci, who was playing a 6-string bass. Anthony Jackson, players like that, and it was those influences that kind of led me through 4-string bass, 5-string bass, 6-string bass, and now I play all three on a regular basis, probably all equally, because of the different types of music that I play and that I'm involved with.
So, but you've never played a normal guitar, electric guitar. You just played bass and keyboard, that's it. Yeah?
I never, no, this is kind of related to another new development. My new album is finished now and is getting ready to come out. We're just starting the marketing campaign before the release date. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are going to be surprised to hear my new record because it's very different. My past albums are all very much jazz fusion or rock fusion, but this new album is a rock. It's a rock record with vocals.
Oh, great!
And all the songs have vocals except for 2 instrumentals. And I'm singing. I'm playing bass, of course. I played most of the keyboards and I played most of the guitar. Well, it's kind of a strange. It's kind of strange how it all came about. Again, I'm not a guitar player, but I decided for this record, because it was moving in a different direction, to try and write from a guitar player perspective, thinking more about riffs and things like that. And through my affiliation with Ibanez, I was able to get a guitar from them, and I started working out parts. Well, of course, for me, it's more difficult than somebody who plays guitar well, because I just don't have all that experience. Well, the more I worked with these parts, I got a little bit better over time, to where, originally my idea was just to put these parts together and give them to some of my favorite guitar players, have them play all the guitars. But I spent so many months working out these parts that it got to the point where they sounded better and better. And I just decided one day, you know what, I'm just going to record these parts. I like these parts and they're working. And I didn't trust myself at first, so I had to play them for my guitar player friends. And I had to win. I asked them, okay, you tell me, be very, very honest. How does this sound? And they were the ones that actually encouraged me. No, you should keep that. And so I did. So it was taking a chance, but it was exciting because although it was kind of a little bit scary, the idea of trying to present these parts, it was a tremendous learning experience for me. And just being completely honest, it's not like these parts I just played them perfectly. Thanks to technology, I was able to punch in and redo sections and make it sound really, really solid. I still, to this day, I wouldn't be able to just pick up a guitar and play all these parts from beginning to end. But, if I perform these songs, it'll be with guitar players. It's not going to be me playing the guitar. So leave it to the professionals. But in fairness, I need to also say that, for most of the guitar solos, I did get some of my favorite guitar players to play those. And, they have a great voice. So yeah, that's my crash course in trying to learn more about guitar through the creation of this album.
great. So, and when I was supposed to hear your new album? Yeah.
So the release date was pushed back, very much because of both the virus situation and also just the way that the construction of the album ended up changing with my decision to do guitar parts and also the vocals. So that added some extra time to the album. The album is completely finished. I have inventory, but instead of just announcing the record and putting a link, I'm getting help this time with people much more experienced in marketing than myself, and just figuring out more of a plan to release things. So I'm actually going to be releasing singles first, and then the album as a whole.
Uh-huh.
But the very first single will be released on social media within the next 2 to 3 weeks, and after that there will be another single and links to purchase. For those who are interested in buying CDs, not as many people buy CDs. They will be available. They are now already manufactured and ready to go. So those people will have the opportunity to actually get, if they want the actual physical media, they'll be able to purchase that as well. But it'll be available on all of the the digital distribution channels, of course.
Great, yeah, great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing that, really, because I actually I expect something new, because I knew that you would be going to create something new. We talked about this. We discussed this album during our sessions last year.
That's right.
In the beginning of this year, and I think it's going to be something unusual and incredible at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
well, I hope it's well received. It will definitely show. It will definitely show my listeners, kind of a different side of what I do, and also the thing that it's exciting for me is that the album tells some stories that are very much a part of contributing to a lot of the hardships and also the celebratory times that I've gone through over the last couple years. And my wife Stephanie is actually the executive producer on the record and assisted in the vision of the album as well, because a lot of some of the songs relate to some of our experiences as a couple as well. So it's a very personal record. But it's also an album that reveals a lot of my early influences and bringing those into the modern context of what I do now. So hopefully listeners will enjoy it and understand it as a sort of a culmination of both past and present influences.
So it's great. It's nice to hear that your wife, your soulmate, if I can say, she also helped you and assisted you in this, So it's a sort of family album, yeah, I can say family.
Absolutely, and that just makes it even more special for me. So
great, great. I wanted to ask you a quick question about which of best players of the world of rock music influenced you most, and in your youth especially. Maybe it was as I read in some other interviews about you, that was Geddy Lee and John Paul Jones.
Absolutely, yeah. Both of those players, and also Chris Squire from Yes was another influence for sure. Those three players at the very beginning were ones that they were basically my teachers, for a time, and then as my listening horizons started to broaden, I was introduced to players like Billy Sheehan, still, one of my all-time, heroes, and these were albums from these players that I was listening to really focused. I was listening to every note in the bass, trying to learn things. Every note. And back then when I was a kid, we were using we didn't have slowdown programs and things, so I was using cassette players to rewind and play over and over and over again. Sometimes wearing out the cassettes completely, trying to do that, and I spent many hours trying to copy the lines of these players that I was listening to.
Yeah, great. Yeah, great. I see. Yeah, I remember this stuff with cassette. I went through it. I was probably 12, 13, and I remember, it was hard. It was still hard in 90s, 25 years ago, to get a cassette in Russia with rock music. And
really?
when you finally got it, the quality wasn't so great because there were not many companies that produced licensed music, with a great quality. It was re-recorded many times, and it was So I would listen to Led Zeppelin 3 or 2 over and over again. I tried to understand this music, and finally, when I got it, when I realized what they were going to say with this album, then it was great. I got a great pleasure.
Such great music. From that era. I still listen to it today. It's you when you've been playing for a long time. You hear new things from the older music that you didn't notice back then. It's really neat.
My father, actually, he was the person who inspired me to, I would say he brought me up on this music, but the ridiculous thing he told me about before my birth, I was born in 1985. It was towards the end of the Soviet era, in Russia. But before, when he was younger, when he was 15, 17, he used to be arrested several times for listening to this music,
Wow.
He had he had LP with Deep Purple or something, or Eurohip, some British bands. And the policeman used to come up to him and ask him, "What is that? You have to come with me to the police station. I'll have to tell your parents about this. This is against the law or something." It was awful.
Wow.
Thanks God, I was 5 or 6 years old when all the system collapsed, but the stories he told me, it was just ridiculous,
Wow,
So
that is amazing.
And for us, for his generation, he's older than you. He's now in his late 50s. He was born in 1963. For him, this music is something from another world. He really loves it, because for him it was hard to get this music, and his attitude to his music is as a part of his life. The way he received this music by his mind is really special. It's very hard. It's really hard to describe it in my words. But it's true. Yeah, it's true.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. All right. So regarding your albums, if you don't mind, recently I enjoyed listening to your first one. If I'm not mistaken, it was Liquid Blue.
Yes.
It was 1980. Sorry, it was 1996 or 5.
Yeah, 95. I think the official release date was 95.
Yeah.
I think.
It's great because it differs from your next album, Balance.
Yeah.
It differs, but as I like this jazz, this calm jazz music. It's wonderful.
Yeah,
I like the
composition.
It's
an interesting album because there's, at the time, I was really, to be honest, still trying to sort of find my voice as a player and as a composer. And it definitely plays on my influences at that time, but it's probably like you just said, you actually described it maybe better than I would, that sort of like a calmer jazz. There's still moments of playing aggression, but the arrangements are not as intense.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's an interesting album that boy, I learned so much from that process, that being my very first, and
Valuable
learned a lot
experience.
about what not to do as much as what to do.
That was your valuable experience, yeah, maybe one first
Yeah.
valuable experience. Yeah, it's great. I especially I like the composition Detroit, you know.
Yeah,
Detroit and
yeah.
this, yeah. So and I listened
Thank
to it over and over again. I don't know why. I just listened to it, listen. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, it's nice when you listen to something on YouTube Music, and then you have an interview with this person. You know.
Yeah.
It's great.
The
Yeah.
thing about that album that I do that I do like, and I'm proud of, is that I feel like it was a good melodic album in terms of I put a lot of focus on the melodies to try to make things memorable instead of
Yeah.
just a very, aggressive, complicated, heavy fusion type of thing. Not everybody likes to listen to that, and even myself, that I have different moods that match different types of music that I want to hear at the time. And that for me at the time, I wanted to try to create music that wasn't so intimidating melodically, but still was interesting enough for musicians. And that was a lot of the basis for the arrangements and how they came across. A few of those songs even it's almost like it's an instrumental version of a pop song. There'd be like a verse section and maybe a bridge and then sort of a chorus section. I was trying to use more of a formulaic construction for a lot of those songs.
I see. Yeah, great. And going back to my first impression from your album Balance, I'd like to ask you one thing. Probably you're the only one who managed to emphasize bass playing, harmonies, solos. Before I never listened to any bass player who played chords.
Yeah.
And that you emphasized bass playing to such an extent. I never heard anything like that, neither before nor after. Probably after you, there are bass players who do something similar. But is there anyone else who you can call that do something similar that you do? Maybe in the past when you started making your first albums, is there anyone else in this niche of bass playing, or?
I mean, I guess the best answer to that question, or the most honest answer to that question, is Balance was certainly born from my influences at the time, and it's a much more bass aggressive album, or bass out front album than Liquid Blue was. And I can remember clearly that the players I was listening to so much of were Victor Wooten and John Patitucci, and there were other players from a standalone solo perspective like Stu Hamm and Michael Manring that I had listened to in the past that were doing incredible things with the bass just by itself as a solo instrument, not even in a full ensemble or arrangement. And then also too players like Stanley Clarke and Marcus Miller, who not only were doing incredible things from the bass playing perspective, but also compositionally, I was very much influenced by them, just as much as their bass playing, because for whatever reason, like the music of Stanley and Marcus, it hit me more than just a bass player's music, but also something that was interesting to listen to, even if you weren't focused on the bass. And it's no surprise that both of those individuals have had incredible successes in terms of soundtrack work and composition and music production, and that just stayed with me.
I see what you mean, and I'm sure that before you there were bass players who do something similar. But you know, because I also listened to Marcus Miller, to these names that you just named, but I know I remember that I was just impressed, and I remember saying we were listening to your album Balance many years ago with my teacher, you know,
Mm.
and he also, of course, he knew all these musicians that you just called, but we both said that we never heard anything like this. Maybe you managed to somehow to specify something, to emphasize something, and to so.
Wow. Well,
Yeah,
thank you
it's
for
just my
that.
personal. Maybe it's my personal view. Probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I think every player who wants to have a voice, wants to have their own voice. Their goal, is to be able to create music that is recognizable as being them. And I continue, to work towards that. Our voices continue to change, throughout the years as artists, as players, as people. What we're saying, the wisdom we acquire, the knowledge we acquire, and Balance, was probably the first album where I feel like I started to, have some of my own recognizable voice. And Liquid Blue had some of that, but again, because it was my very first effort, there was a lot of experimentation going on there too. And Balance, I feel like I had more of a specific objective, to that music and kind of what I wanted it to say. And I'm, other people's perceptions, of course, are going to be just as valid as mine when it comes to evaluating my music. I mean, for me personally, there's been an evolution and growth through each of my records to where there's a little bit more wisdom and experience that goes into each progressive title. There may be some people who like older records of mine better, some who like the newer ones better. Regardless of the perception, each successive album is a reflection of greater number of experiences gained, at that time for me. So they are still a reflection of my growth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Verbally, the Beatles also were influenced by their idols, and maybe they didn't realize that they did something new. They just tried to copy something, and they admit this, and maybe so did you. All right.
Yeah, if you don't keep growing, it's kind of like, what's the point?
Yeah. It just
we want to. You got to keep striving, you have to keep aspiring to get to the next level, whatever that means.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes the next level might mean becoming simpler instead of becoming more complex. Sometimes I think a lot of musicians assume that the path to growth, is occupied by the pursuit of more and more complex or more and more difficult things. But sometimes growth is reflected in even more of a minimalistic approach or a simpler approach, which sounds paradoxical, but I've learned that to be true when it comes to things like musical maturity or accessibility. The accessibility level of your music. There's so many elements that come together to define those things.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And not only in music, but I think in many fields of life. Yeah, actually.
Yes, for sure.
The approach is the same, actually. Yeah. Right. Yeah, and let's go, please, if you don't mind. You're also a musician educator. You are also a musical educator. You're a clinician. Yeah. And you seem to be open to the whole world, like an enthusiast whose aim is to help people to improve their musical skills. Isn't it hard for you, for a musician with such a background, to teach beginners or people whose level is far below yours?
That's a great question. I think that different types of players and different types of educators connect with optimally with different types of students, and I believe that it's a gift to be able to teach beginners. That's not something everybody can do.
Yeah.
And I really mean that when I say that, because for me, I feel like as an educator, what feels most comfortable to me is the concept of trying to help musicians sort of find their own voice on the instrument. And that just happens to be, if I had a specialty, to me, that is what my specialty is. But there are other educators that really thrive and really specialize in working with beginners, and they have a unique ability to take musical concepts, and make them really easy for beginners to understand. And I have the knowledge, I guess, of how to explain things that are simple and beginner level, but I don't know if I do as good a job as connecting with beginner students as some other educators might. And that's just being honest about, my teaching skill set. So for me, like, where the educational environment that I feel like I've fit the best with are the ones in which I'm working with players who already have at least a basic level of proficiency, and they don't know what to do to get to the next level. I like showing players how to continue teaching themselves instead of just giving them a list of things to learn. Mm-hmm. And that is, the concept of finding your own voice is born from that. So the concept-oriented teaching is what it's what I think I do best. Maybe my students disagree, but that's for me. That's from the feedback and just where I feel most comfortable. That seems to make sense. I have taught many beginners in my life, but like I said, I think a special type of teacher is able to really thrive in that environment.
Well, yeah, I understand what you mean, but I also, so the guys who are listening to us, I also had a pleasure and an honor to be as a student for a short time of Adam Nitti, and that's what he just confirmed with his own words. That's he just sort of gives you a kick, and then probably in a month or two, when you continue practicing on your instrument, his words and his ideas he was trying to deliver to you, they start, appearing in your mind. That's the thing. Mm. Yeah. And I think it's one of the most important aims of a teacher. To plant seeds in students' mind and then let them grow in a while. Yeah,
That's a fantastic way of describing it. Yeah. You said it better than I did. That's great.
Because I tried to apply the same or maybe similar approach in languages, probably. Especially in Chinese, it's really hard for most Europeans, but try to put the seeds and then let them grow. It's very important, especially in music.
That's fantastic analogy. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, and please, guys, who I know that some of you like, probably I inspired you a few years ago when you came to my lessons to take up playing music and guitar music. So I would like to recommend you, if you decide to carry on with your guitar playing or any musical playing, bass playing, please, Adam Nitti is here to help you.
Well, thank you so much. One of the things I enjoyed the most about working with you was, the fact that you were playing a different instrument.
Yeah.
And you could probably agree that when it comes to communicating through music, we don't have to worry as much about the differences between the instruments. Like it's the concepts are universal.
Yeah.
You know, we're still speaking the language of music. It just is executed slightly differently on one instrument compared to another. And it was both a challenge for me and also um, uh, inspiring for me to convey things in a guitar or in a way that at least could be understood on guitar.
Mhm.
And so, thank you for that opportunity, because
it's great.
it really tested the concepts and kind of demonstrated that, again, you know, it's still the same language. You know,
Yeah.
it's just different. It's a different tool.
I didn't feel any discomfort when you were holding your bass guitar, and
Yeah.
I was holding my classical guitar. It's not even rock guitar, you know. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So that's and I understood what you were going to say, and it's great. Yeah, it's great. Yeah. All right. So please, Adam Nitti, at your service, where if you decide to have some lessons now, Skype lessons, you know, great. It was my first experience via Skype lessons or Zoom lessons. So never mind, you know, and it's great, you know, because since the end of March this year, I've been having Skype lessons with my students, and maybe in the beginning it was I was a little bit awkward in this, but now I got used, and it's nice.
Yeah.
It works. It works. Yeah. Thanks.
It really is amazing. You know, yes, it does. You are compromised in that it is still not really feasible to play together at the same time. But with the exception of that, everything else, you know, it works. And you know, now with Skype and Zoom, you know, there's built-in features that allow you to share documents and resources through the computer, and it's definitely a great alternative to the in-person lessons if the in-persons are not possible.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And thanks God we have Skype nowadays.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't know how I would be able to survive. You know, it's hard because
it really is. It really is a blessing having these tools. It's one of the good sides of technology for sure.
It helps us. It definitely helps us to get by. You know.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Much so.
Right. You know, and you were one of the pioneers, if I'm right, that you many years ago, in early 2000s, you founded a project called musicdojo.com. Is it? It was as far as I know. I just was reading something, you know, yesterday. And it was one of the first musical educational projects. Or was it? Yeah. Yeah,
it was, and that was co-founded by myself and another bass player named Len Sitnick. Been a friend of mine for years. We met at a Victor Wooten bass camp, and we started talking about this idea. And Music Dojo was one of the very first sort of like online music education resources that integrated different types of media. Now, the thing is, it was so different back then because that was before the YouTube revolution hit. And so there was no real standard in terms of how people were sharing media through online lessons. And so we were taking lessons that were written and embedding things like images and videos and MP3s and just kind of like a mishmash of those types of things. But it was a really cool project. We had lessons from different instructors for bass guitar, for guitar, and we also offered what we call general music courses, which were based around music theory and music theory concepts. But once YouTube started to explode and become more of a part of everybody's life, it was kind of sort of forced the end of that project, because we just didn't have the financial or personnel resources to do anything that could compete with the availability of information that way. So we ultimately brought it to a close, and then I just, as sort of a follow-up project years later in 2012, I launched my lessons website. You can go there either via adamnittimusic.com or adamnittimusiceducation.com, and that is more of a true video-based, library, curriculum-based library for bass players, and it's a subscription-based site, which is a very common thing you see today. But yeah, it all started with Music Dojo for sure. We learned a lot from it.
It's great, yeah, and then and as you mentioned, you progressed after that to your site where you offer lessons, and it's great. Yeah, I visited your site when I started correspondence with you on Instagram. Yeah, then I visited your site. I found your site myself. I didn't know the address,
Yeah,
and it was great. It's great.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
great.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, great. Yeah. All right. And and the last question. So I think there are too many topics for us to discuss. Yeah, but we also have our families, and the daily routine. So I think we've had a substantial interview, if I can say so.
Yeah, absolutely. These are great questions.
Yeah, we've discussed many things. And last question, of course, it's about the current situation in the world. For many musicians, this virus and all that stuff. For many musicians, such as for example Paul McCartney, he's releasing his album in December. It's called McCartney 3. As I know, McCartney 1 was released in the year of your birth.
Oh, excellent! Yeah, that's right.
His second McCartney 2 was released in 1980, 5 years before my birth. And now 50 years after his first release of McCartney 1, he is releasing his McCartney 3. So this year turned out to be productive for him and for many people, for many creative people. And what about you, Adam? How is it for you?
In terms of just this new mode of working, is that what you mean?
Yeah, probably you recorded something new or you composed new things.
So as I mentioned at the beginning, all of my in-person work was completely eliminated in one fell swoop. I haven't done any tour dates. I haven't done any clinics at all for majority of the year. Mm-hmm. So it really forced me to evaluate what my position was going to be, how I was going to utilize my time, because I had a lot more time at home. And so the positive is that it allowed me to finish this new album. That was a fantastic gift, to have that time to be able to do that. It allowed me to have more family time on a daily basis. That was much greater and much more plentiful than it was. And even simple things that you just kind of take for granted, like being able to sit down and read books or magazines or study new things. I started just recently. I actually started a software developer school boot camp, which is something brand new for me. It was brought to my attention by another musician colleague of mine who went through it. And so I'm learning web development now, and so now I'm back in school, and
that's great.
I only am able to really do this because of my schedule is so different from what it was before, and I'm able to make a daily commitment to studying and doing the live classes on the weekends. So it's. And yes, it is sobering, and it is of concern to have the financial aspects significantly changed to where you don't know as much where the money is coming from. That part is a little bit scary, but I've relied on my faith and my belief that the provision would be there. We would ultimately be taken care of, and that's how it's been. Is it easy? No, it's not easy, but it just strengthens your faith to know that you're going to be okay amidst the challenges. And so it feels weird to say it, but it's an exciting time for me in spite of all of this disconnection that we have with this virus world. And so we're just trying to live healthy lives, be sensible, and take this opportunity to evaluate kind of where we are and what we're doing, and also be creative as possible. So that's kind of a summary of what's been for me.
Okay, whatever challenge, I guess it will make us stronger. I also,
Absolutely.
I guess. I can't say that it was easy for me, this year. It was a really hard year for me, really hard, and I've learned a lot, I've seen a lot, and I got this virus now, and now I'm trying to get through this, but I know that in spite of these difficulties, in spite of these hardships, it will definitely make us stronger,
Yes, I believe so. That too.
And bad times, sooner or later, but they will come to an end.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah. So and unfortunately, I invited Adam. We invited Adam to Russia for our concerts, but unfortunately now the statistics both in the US and Russia is not very good. I mean, the number of infected people now increasing, and it's much worse actually than it was in April and May. Yeah, so I got sick, and I should say that I even relaxed because I started going to swimming pool. That was my mistake. So probably there I got it, But these times, I think sooner or later they will come to an end, and we will be able to enjoy your concert or clinic in Russia, in Moscow.
Yeah, I'm still very much excited about doing that as soon as we can. So I appreciate the invitation. We'll definitely make that happen.
Yeah, because there are people who love you, and there are people who appreciate your music. So it's great. Yeah.
Well, I look forward to it and meeting those people.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Adam, so if you don't mind, can I ask you maybe if we could play something together, or it's not possible?
Sure, we can try.
Just couple of minutes. Yeah. All
sure,
right.
Let's try it.
Oh yeah, just let's try. I don't know how.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so do you mind if I just play a sort of harmony?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just if you don't can. It's actually my own composition. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Right.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Right. So how's it?
Cool.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Thank you for this. Yeah. It's just sort of intro. Yeah. Or the thing.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah. Maybe the harmony here is a little bit weird, but it sounds nice probably.
Oh yeah. There's a little bit of a delay, so hopefully my playing lined up with the chords properly. But yeah, it's beautiful, man. Love it.
Thank you for this. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you are the second American with whom I'm making an interview. The first one, Alex Carlin.
Cool.
Alex Carlin, probably you know him. I know he used to play in the band called Rubinus.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah. Now he lives in Russia. Now he lives in Moscow. He tries to make gigs, with his band. And we met him in July, and we had a nice conversation. And this interview is coming soon. So it's
awesome.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to to make interviews with such people. So it's nice. Yeah. Right.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, I wish you all the best with your interviews and your program.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I don't have so many subscribers so far, but maybe because I haven't figured out how to promote yourself on YouTube, it will take some time. But I think the content is quite interesting. It's becoming interesting, and So
fantastic.
Yeah, our program will be on YouTube. So as soon as it is ready, I will send it to you in the file to your email.
Okay.
So if you wish, you can put it on your YouTube channel. I will make a cutting. I will add some videos from your clinics, from your concerts.
Okay.
So your music. So as I mentioned, there are still many things we could discuss, but I think we had a fundamental interview, I think, Adam.
Yeah, for sure. It was great.
So thank you for your time. Thank you for time. It turned out to be longer than I expected, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So I apologize for this. Yeah.
I enjoyed it very much. Thank you so much for your time and for your interest in doing this.
Yeah, and if I manage to find the time to continue music, and I will definitely take some lessons from you. Yeah,
I look forward to it.
Yeah, because they're really, really nice now. All right.
Okay. All right, my friend.
Thank you, Adam. It was Adam Nitti and our program Power to the People. So subscribe, and if you wish to play bass or just do music, you can ask Adam to help you on this. Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Adam Nitti is the greatest guitar player in the world, in my opinion.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Adam. Yeah.
Your kind words. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And do you mind if I ask you to send me your recording to my email, All right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that right now after we get off.
Oh, thank you. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And looking forward to your album. Looking forward. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, my friend. Take
Thank
care.
you. Take care. See you.
All right,
Bye.
God bless you.
God
Bye.
bless you.